morning. Just waiting for some people to log on and settle in, so I will shuffle my oracle cards here while we wait. Good morning. Good morning, folks. Thanks for joining in. Good morning, Mom. Good morning, Susan. Thanks for joining. Hope your weekend's going well. We'll just wait another minute or two to see if anybody else is making their way to join us, and then we'll get underway. We'll do one final minute here, so if you need a last minute pee break or to finish your coffee or any of that kind of stuff, or to settle in, feel free to do so. All right, we'll get started and get underway and get on with our practice. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I know these nice sunny mornings might make it difficult to get onto your mat, but I'm proud of you for doing so, so excellent job. So today's class I planned on don't be an expert and set aside your ego and ask for help. Good morning, Gloria, thanks for joining in. And I know we talked before about not being an expert and asking for help, but I quoted this book last time, and I'm going to quote it again. It's called Know My Name, and it's a memoir by the woman who was sexually assaulted by Brock quite a while ago now, but the memoir just came out, so I just finished reading it. And there was a lot of really good lines in here, so I found that it sort of took me back to that same theme. So I wanted to talk about these a little bit. And then it also ends up tying into my personal life a little bit too, so I'm going to talk about that. We'll pull a card and then we'll get underway. So don't be an expert means you don't need to know everything. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to turn to friends. It's okay to get wisdom from other people. All of these things that are sometimes seen as vulnerabilities are actually really important to do to ensure you get help. So the first tab that I put down on this page is the woman, the female character in this book. After she was assaulted, and it goes through the court case and everything, she was attending an art class for survivors, and she was not doing very well with what they were doing. Like, she didn't have the skills, she wasn't asking for help, she was feeling very frustrated by the art projects. And she says, when I was little, I never asked anyone if I was an artist. I just cleared enough space on the table to make room for my paper. I picked up my things, walked slowly home, prepared myself for the next day. I started coming in on my off days. I told myself I wasn't stupid, and then I started asking questions. My teacher always took the time to help me, encouraged me to work on an even larger scale. Soon my prints were the size of tabletops. I was teaching myself to ask for help, and in return, beautiful things were happening. So I just wanted to highlight that, because if you ask for help, lots of times people don't know you need help or don't feel appropriate helping unless you specifically ask for it. And I know that can be a very humbling thing to do, but as she states, when she started asking for help, beautiful things began to happen. So oftentimes the capabilities are within you, sometimes we just need a guiding, helping hand. So remember that it's okay to not be an expert. And then I also tabbed down this page because eventually she starts going to a therapist and going for counseling after being reluctant to do so a long time. And there's a thing in italics where the guidance counselor says, I don't tell them the answers, I guide them. So if you went to get help, you wouldn't be going to get the answers, you would be going to get some guidance. And the other lines that I underlined is that she started talking about her experience and getting some help, and she said, for the first time, I was handing somebody a flashlight declaring, come with me. The telling was a doozy, but afterwards I felt lighter, like I'd left some of the weight up in the building, the counselor's building, which made it easier to walk in the streets. I bought a small red notebook and wrote, it feels better when the story is outside of myself. So I highlighted that because I feel like oftentimes too people are reluctant to share sort of their concerns with other people, or they turn to friends or family, but sometimes, again speaking from personal experience, finding the right counselor and sharing things with them, they sort of give you action steps of what to do to sort of how to help yourself. And they don't push you in one way or the other, but they help you. There's a beautiful visualization where the person getting counseled has a whole bunch of tangled thoughts in a thought bubble up above their head. I saw this on Facebook. And then they talk to the counselor, and then all of those tangles start to untangle and make more sense. And I really think that's what therapists or counselors do if you find the right person. So again, for me, it took going through 2 or 3 different people until I found one that made sense and was a good fit. But I liked how this author wrote about how when it's outside of yourself, things get lighter. So I think that's important too. Good morning, Jeff. Thanks for joining in. Just starting with a little chat, and then we'll get started with their practice. And then, personally, if I was being very authentic, which I will be, and I feel like I'm not entirely myself, so I just want to be truthful as they show up on the mat. Last night, I got dumped by the guy that I was seeing. So I'm feeling a little bit off this morning and a little bit sad. But it was a nice chance to remember that it's okay to turn to people to get help. So last night at 9 o'clock when it happened, I messaged 2 good friends, I messaged my parents, and sort of shared that right away so you don't have to sit with it. And I thought that this would be a good chance too to talk about these 3 things that I keep on my fridge that I find super helpful. So the first 2 Post-it notes are a variety of affirmations that I keep nearby to sort of lift me up a little bit when I need it, and they're really good reminders. So I turned back to them this morning. And one says, self-respect, 1 breath, 1 step. I am enough, it will get better, and be vulnerable. And the other one says, light up, loosen your grip, be authentic and truthful. The unknown is okay, and you are a complete masterpiece. So those are good reminders. And then whenever something difficult happens, or in general, I always go to my things that make me happy list that live on my fridge. So in times of sort of turmoil or frustration or change, I come back to this and sort of sink into these things a little bit more. So these are nice reminders too. So some of the things that make me happy include yoga, which is why I'm here this morning, being social with friends, reading, flowers, gardening, sleep, live theater, food, travel adventures, hiking, a beautiful list of things that I can turn to get back to. And just a general reminder that when things difficult happen in your life, or unexpected things, or things that you don't get to control, a reminder that you don't always get closure from those things either. I don't remember where I read that, but it was a nice reminder that things don't always get tied up in sort of a nice little package. Sometimes things are messy and you just need to live with it. So let's draw a card and see what it says and get underway. I did that last night too. I burnt sage, I drew a couple cards, got my rose quartz crystal. So let's see what message we need this morning. I'm feeling this one. Haven't seen this one before either, and that's kind of exciting. It's a whale spirit, and it says, trust the great mystery. We'll bring it closer to you. Good morning, crew. So I know it's backwards, but there's a beautiful picture of a whale. And let's see what the message is that we need this morning. It's towards the back of the book. All right, whale spirit is the card that we pulled this morning. Good morning. Trust the great mystery, it says. Whale spirit is an ancient creature who was here at the beginning of time and who has seen everything, felt everything, and heard everything that has ever happened on this planet. In the hidden realms where all things must gather first before manifesting into form, whale spirit is the keeper, singing the soul of the whole world from the deepest waters of the coldest seas. When whale spirit appears, it's a reminder that there's a great mystery that you must accept without intellectually trying to understand it. Some things cannot be known by the mind, only experienced through the heart, through intuition and through the peripheral senses that part the invisible veils separating the visible world from the great manifesting consciousness in the hidden realms. Now is the time for you to immerse yourself in the great mystery of spirit and to trust that within the invisible, what you can't see now are the seeds of your intentions being tended to by the angels. Your protection message this morning says, certainty is not offered to you right now. You are being asked to trust the process of co-creation. Whale spirit reminds you that your primary reality is not that of the material world, but of the realm of the spirit, from which the essence of your dreams and desires take shape before arriving as a specific form. You must trust absolutely that what will come will be of the highest good. Stay in your present moment awareness and allow the hidden realms to hold your intentions safely until it's time for them to manifest in the realm of form. Let go, for you will not be left behind. Some things take longer than others to arrive. So that's our message from Whale Spirit this morning, to trust the great mystery. And I always take lots of comfort in messages like that too, that there is some sort of bigger plan. That when change happens, typically it happens for the good. It just might take a while to sort of see that. So we'll trust the whale card this morning. So it's been a while since we did some more of a standing practice. So that's where we're going to focus to start this morning, and then we'll settle down and settle in for some longer stretches. So make your way up to a standing position if you're not there already. So we're going to center standing too, which feels a little bit different, but we'll still take it nice and slow. But I just felt like being up and moving was my plan that I had already done, so I decided to stick with it. So I want you to start by thinking about your feet and grounding your feet down into the mat. That might mean lifting your toes up, spreading them out, setting them back down. Slight bend in your knees, trying to align your lower body over top of your feet and ankles. Thinking about tucking your belly button in towards your spine, so you might default to being rounded. And I want you to think about standing up tall, tucking belly button into spine to activate that core, rolling your shoulders up, back, and down. Gently tucking your chin in towards your chest, kind of like you're making double chins. That helps protect the weight of your neck. If we're out here, our neck weighs quite a bit, and that's hard and pinches the back of our neck, so tuck. And then growing a little bit taller through the crown, through the top of your head. Hands can be out to the side if you're feeling nice and active and alive this morning, or perhaps just relaxed if you prefer. And then I'm going to be quiet to allow yourself to arrive on the mat this morning and to sink into your body a little bit more. Your eyes can remain open or you can close them. Since we are standing, if you do close them, balance might be an issue with a little bit of swaying. You can take your feet sort of shoulder width apart if you want to feel a little bit more grounded and balanced. If you want to play around with your balance, your big toes can come together and just leave a little space between your heels. So again, eyes can shut, or you can just gaze down and away from yourself softly. Recognizing any thoughts that make their way in, but then just allowing them to pass. And let's get started by completing a body scan. So a body scan checks in with different parts of ourselves to see how we're doing this morning and what we're bringing to the mat this morning. So let's start at the top of our head. And just realize any sensations that you're feeling. Small movements, what your hair feels like against your body this morning. Focusing on your forehead, your eyes, if there's any tension being held there, letting it melt away. Coming down to your jaw, your chin, your lips, any tingling sensations that you're feeling. Coming to your ears, working your way down your neck, the back of your neck, through your shoulders. Thinking about melting those shoulders away from your ears. Traveling down each arm, around your wrists. And then focusing on your hands and your fingers. Again, being kind to yourself, not judging anything, just feeling how you're feeling this morning, checking in with yourself, noticing those little movements, coming back around to our chest, our back, noticing how our clothes feel against our body, working down through our torso, to our hips, around to our glutes. If we're holding tension, if we're squeezing our thighs or our bum cheeks, we're going to relax a little bit. Make sure we have that nice little bend in our knees. Making our way down our legs, our quads in the front, hamstrings in the back. Seeing how, again, our clothes sit on our body. Coming around to our knees, down our shins, our calves, all the way down to our ankles. And finally to our feet and each individual toe. Feeling the weight of our feet against our mat or the floor, whatever they're touching, and allowing ourselves to sink in a little bit deeper to that area. Going back to any area that you want to check in on again, or perhaps you recognize that area needs a little bit more TLC, and sending some softening, welcoming, self-compassionate sort of breaths and energy towards that part of your body. Coming back to your breath, focusing on your inhales and your exhales, inhaling through the nose if that feels okay, and also exhaling through the nose. Just by drawing your awareness to your breath, you've probably already started to slow it down, deepen it a little bit, which is calming to your body. Let's imagine pulling that breath all the way into the bottom of our belly. So inhaling through your nose, filling up the bottom of your belly with breath, exhaling fully and completely through the nose. And repeating that a couple more times. Inhaling and exhaling. Sometimes I like my hand on the part of my body that I'm pulling my breath into, just to feel that gentle rise and fall. One more time. Beautiful job. Going to slide up to focus on our ribs. So ribs on either side of our body, picturing them sort of curling around our sides. We're going to inhale again through the nose, filling up the bottom of our belly. We're going to take in a little bit more breath so it feels like our ribs are expanding. Whenever you're ready. One last time. Awesome job. Next set of breaths, we're going to fill up our belly. We're going to expand our ribs. We're going to keep breathing in that breath all the way till it feels like we've filled up our collarbone. So when you're ready, inhaling through the nose steadily, fill up your belly. Keep breathing in, expand the ribs. Breathe in a little bit more, all the way up to your shoulders. And then exhale, reversing that, emptying out the collarbone, the shoulders, the ribs, the belly, until there's no air left in your body. Twice more on your own. Beautiful job. It feels really good for me to breathe with intention and focus on that. That alone, if you can take a few minutes to check in with yourself throughout the day, soften shoulders, soften jaw, and a few just intentional breaths where you're thinking about the breaths can really sort of melt some stress away and be a really good preventative measure. Coming up to our shoulders, we're going to roll our shoulders up, back, and down a few times, gently waking up our shoulders, bringing some movement to our body. Your hands can stay right down by your side and even keep contact with your sides if you want. Or if you prefer to take your arms out wide, you could do that instead. Let's switch directions if you haven't already. So same thing, just the opposite way. Sort of continually scanning too, checking in with your legs. I tend to sort of default to clenching my quads and my glutes, and really they should be staying relaxed and loose. If it doesn't need to work right now, don't make it. Last couple rotations. Beautiful job. Then standing up nice and straight and tall, we're going to take our right hand, again I'm sort of probably backwards to you, so this might not look like my right, but it is. I'm going to let that right hand slide down my side, and this is stretching through my opposite side body. I should feel a nice stretch from hip up to under my arm, and my opposite hand, the one that's reaching down, just sort of hangs out there. Come back to your breath. Scan to soften anything that doesn't need to work right now, coming back up to the center, and gently doing the same thing but on the opposite side. Coming back up to center again, going back to our first side, same movement. You can hang out right here, or perhaps that opposite hand is going to come to your hip and give you a little bit more movement down. Or if you want deeper, that arm could either reach up towards the ceiling, reach down a little bit further, or it could arc up overhead. Come back to your breath wherever you're at. One more deep breath in. And with your exhale, come back up to center. Excellent. Same thing, opposite side. Coming back into that side bend, feeling that stretch through your side. Making sure that slight bend is in your knees, and either hanging out right here, bringing opposite hand to hip, reaching up towards the ceiling, which stretches through the opposite side as well, or maybe arcing overhead. One more big breath. And with your exhale, coming back up to stand. Gonna take both arms out to the sides and up overhead a couple times. Inhaling up and exhaling back down. Repeating that movement, inhaling up. Exhale back down. Repeating that movement, your pace with your breath. It could stay as a steady arm movement. Sometimes I like to get my legs involved a little bit by sort of bending as I sweep up, and then bending again when I come back down, bending back up. Nice and loose and relaxed. Inhaling anytime you're reaching up, exhaling as you bring it back down. If it's a fast movement, it's okay to sort of sigh the breath out as your arms sweep down, so it sounds like last couple times, releasing any tension with those side out exhales, maybe swinging the opposite hand in front each time. Last one, and then reaching both arms up overhead, reaching up towards the ceiling. Big breath in, and with your exhale, bringing it back down. Beautiful job. Gonna reach both arms up overhead again. You can't see the top of my hands, I'll bend down so you can. Right hand's going to take left wrist in its hand and gently pull across your body. Come back to your breath. Nice, same thing, opposite side. And always remembering you have permission to modify for your body. Bring it back down, hands coming to your hips. Rolling your shoulders up and back, squeezing your elbows towards each other in behind yourself, really pushes your chest forward and sort of counteracts a lot of that leaning forward that we do. So yes, you always have permission to modify for your body if it doesn't feel right for your body, if your body and your body's story doesn't allow for that range of motion. Please know that that's completely okay and modify instead. One more big breath in. And exhale, relax your arms forward. We're going to inhale, take our elbows back. Exhale, release. Twice more, inhaling back. Exhale, release. One more time on your own. Beautiful. You can stay right there with that one, or your hands could come in front, Anjali Mudra, palms facing against each other, fingers tight or spread out. We're gonna reach our arms wide and back and then close it down again. Inhaling as we reach back, exhaling as we close it up. Last time. Beautiful job. And then finally, just a couple sun breaths before we get into some different warriors and chair poses. So for sun breaths, we're going to inhale our arms up and overhead. As we exhale, we're hinging forward at the hips, sweeping down kind of like we're swan diving, coming to a forward fold, leaning everything forward, hands sort of hanging out or resting wherever they're at. We're going to reach up to a flat back. So my fingertips are going to run along my shins. I'm going to peel myself up until I feel like my back is flat. And then I'm going to soften down into that fold again. And then I'm going to reverse that swan dive, coming back up. And hands meet in front. I'll do that again nice and slow for you. If you're feeling good and know what you're doing, feel free to sort of just keep doing a couple of sun breaths. We're going to inhale our arms up and overhead. With an exhale, we're swan diving, leading with our chest. Hands reaching down in front. Inhaling up to a flat back, hands running along our shins. Exhaling back down into a fold. And then inhaling, reversing that swan dive, coming back up. Let's do twice more, picking up speed a little bit. Again, if you're feeling good, you can ignore my prompts and go ahead. Inhaling both arms up and overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up, flat back. Exhale, folding back down. Inhaling, reversing that swan dive. And last time at your own pace on your own. Excellent job. Take a couple recentering breaths here if that built up some heat in your body. All right, then coming into chair pose. So chair pose, I'm taking my feet a little bit wider and I'm sitting back a little bit, almost like I'm sitting in a chair. My chest is staying up. So if I showed you from the side, it looks like bum's coming down to sit. Chest is staying forward and I'm hanging out right here. So I don't want to tilt too far forward. If your legs get tired, you just stand up for a minute and then sink back down. So we sink into chair pose and you can hang out right here if you want and just play with that balance in your feet, or perhaps your arms are going to go up to either side. Keep your chest up, keep breathing. 2 more breaths. Straighten your legs, drop your arms back down, maybe shake it out. So when we hold poses like this, our body has a tendency to clench up and we might hold our breath or breathe really shallow. What I want you to try and do instead is keep breathing nice and deep, because that cues the body we're okay, and sort of your endurance lasts longer. So we're going to add in a couple of twists this time. So we're sinking back down into that chair pose. Arms are maybe going out here, maybe going up and overhead. We're going to turn our upper body to the left and bring our hands to the outside of that leg. Twist to the left. Keep breathing. Come back around to the front. Big breath in. Twisting to the other side. Coming back around to the front and standing up. Beautiful job. So what that does is just sort of slowly start to build some muscles in our leg, wake all of that up. Stepping to the top of your mat, I'm gonna get you to take a big step back with your right foot. We're getting ready for warrior 2. So the top of my front foot, toes are up towards the mat. My back foot could face the long side of the mat, or I could angle it in a little bit further. So my options with my foot are sort of here, or to angle in. My belly is going to face the long side of the mat, and I'm going to sink into that forward knee, getting ready for warrior 2. My front heel could line up with the arch of my back foot. Really, as long as you're happy with your foundation and you feel good, that's what we're looking for. adding those arms front and back, sinking in, and then gaze comes to rest on your lead middle finger. Come back to your breath, keep breathing. Maybe check in with our feet, make sure our toes aren't curled up and gripping the mat, that they have good contact with the mat. And maybe exhale and soften your shoulders down. Our lead hand, when we're looking at, is going to turn palm up. And we're going to tilt our arms till our back hand comes to rest on our back leg. And our front hand is reaching up towards the ceiling. One more big breath in. And on our exhale, bringing it back down. One more breath here. And then hands can come down, feet can face in, and we can heel toe our feet together. We're going to do the same thing, but on the opposite side. So back up to the top of your mat. I'm going to turn the other way just so you can keep seeing. And step back with that opposite foot. Build that foundation again. Aligning heel to arch, feeling good about our foundation. Leaning in to that lead knee. Make sure you can still see your toes down there. We don't want to be extended beyond our toes. Torso, our belly opens up to long side of the mat. And then sink into warrior two. So my hips are open to the long side of the mat. And then I turn to look at my lead middle finger. And then I come back to my breath. Maybe peek down and see if our lead knee is collapsing, tilting in. We don't want it to do that, we want it to stay up. Lead hand goes up towards the ceiling. Tilt those hands. One more big breath in. On your exhale, bringing it back down for one last breath. Hands come down, heel toe feet together. And take a moment to shake it out or whatever you need. A little bit of adjustment from our low and slow that we do, but again, I had just felt it was time for a standing class, so hoping you're doing okay. Coming back to stand, we're going to ground down through our right foot. I want you to imagine roots coming out of your foot and grounding down into the mat. We're going to come up onto our tiptoes of our left foot. Thinking about posture, shoulders up, back, and down. Maybe gazing off to somewhere that isn't moving. Maybe you're going to stay right here on your tiptoes and that's enough for your balance. That's completely fine. Maybe you're going to play around with lifting your toes up off the mat a little bit. Your hands can guide that leg if you want. They can go to hips, they can go out for balance, they can touch a wall. Bringing those toes up off the mat, maybe. Maybe bringing that knee up to 90 degrees. Maybe if you can comfortably do so, holding onto big toe and extending foot out front. Wherever you're at, this is working these stabilizing muscles by keeping us balanced. Touching down as many times as you need to, being very kind to yourself. We're going to take our foot from facing towards the front. We're going to open it up to the left. So maybe your feet are going to stay down on the mat, tiptoes, and you're going to be right here. Maybe you're going to play around with raising them, setting them down. Perhaps you feel comfortable holding out to the side. Perhaps you feel comfortable holding toe and extending. One more big breath. Bringing it back to the front again. Slowly pivoting forward. Chest goes down towards to face the mat. And again, maybe it's just going to be that you're going to step back with your foot and bend at the waist and just look down at the floor. Hands on hip or back. Maybe you're going to lift that foot a little bit, or maybe you feel comfortable hinging all the way down and reaching back. Straightening back up and setting that foot down. Shaking it out. Getting ready to do the same thing on the opposite side. So grounding down through the opposite foot, coming up on tiptoes. Maybe hanging out right here, just on tiptoes. Maybe using that wall for support. Maybe hovering. Perhaps coming up to 90 degrees. Perhaps holding toes and extending out front. opening your knee towards the side. Finding sort of your edge where you want to work at this morning. Bringing it back towards the front. Maybe just stretching that foot back onto tiptoes. Maybe hinging at the hips and looking down. Or perhaps resting that leg back, reaching back. Nice bend in your supporting leg, and arms reaching back to either side. Keep breathing wherever you're at. One more big breath in. And on your exhale, straightening back up, setting that foot down. Shaking everything out, good job. Making your way down to the mat, we'll start slowing things down a little bit. So sometimes it's nice to do a combination practice like that where you move and work up a sweat and all of those things and then slow it back down. So half butterfly to start. Gonna extend our left leg long, tuck our right leg in, turn our body towards that extended leg. Maybe rotating that ankle first one direction and then the other. Maybe flexing your toes away from yourself. And then drawing your toes towards your nose. Sitting up nice and tall, maybe reaching your arms up and overhead, and then hinging forward at the waist to bend over top of that extended leg, and then softening. Holding here and coming back to your breath. I'm going to play with my lighting for a second while you hold this pose and breathe. Last couple breaths here, really checking in with your body, softening any areas that you're holding tension. Check in with your upper leg, your quad, your glute. Maybe give your jaw a wiggle, one more big breath in. And with your exhale, bringing your torso back up. Gonna do the same thing but on the opposite side. Extending the other leg out long, tucking the other one in, starting with those ankle rotations. First one direction, then the other. Maybe pushing your toes away from yourself. Feeling how that stretches the top of your foot, drawing your toes towards your nose, pushing your heel away. And then relaxing your foot, turning your body towards that extended leg. We're sitting up nice and tall first. That stretches out our vertebrae, our back, so it's ready to hinge forward. And we can hinge forward from here, or we could inhale our arms up and overhead, and then exhale, softening forward. Not reaching for anything specific. It's okay if you can't reach for your foot or your instep or your ankle. Your hands can relax to either side. Last couple breaths in this pose. Again, checking in with your body to see where you might be holding tension. And with your exhales, actively softening these areas. inhale, bringing your torso back up, bringing your feet to meet in front of yourself, soles of your feet together. They can be close, they can be far, whatever works for you. And first, just sitting up nice and tall, we're gonna turn towards the left. So left hand's gonna go in behind for support, right hand's gonna reach across to that left knee, and we're gently going to twist. Head comes back around first, rest of the body follows. Gonna do the same thing but on the opposite side. So right hand goes in behind, helps me sit up nice and tall, left arm across to right knee, and then slowly twisting to look over that right shoulder. Back around to the front, rest of the body follows. We're gonna get ready to hinge and fold forward. So you might wanna slide your feet away a little bit more. We're gonna take a big breath in, maybe reaching arms up and overhead, and with our exhale, hinging forward over top of our legs and softening down wherever feels okay. It's very okay if your hinge forward is just millimeters. Sometimes our hips run really tight and our knees are up quite high, and you can feel it with a little bit of movement. So resting wherever you are, making sure that you can breathe deeply and comfortably, and then sinking back into your breath. This time, let's monitor where our thoughts go. So through our practice, have you been focused on your breath and on the feelings in your body, or has your mind been sort of going out of control? Take a minute and check in and see if you can quiet your mind if it does start to wander, just noticing. Last couple breaths, maybe softening down a bit further. And with your next inhale, coming back up to sit, maybe using our hands to guide our legs up and closed, perhaps windshield wipering back and forth a moment, and then pivoting to lay back on your mat. Drawing both knees in towards your chest, perhaps rotating from side to side, or drawing some small circles with your knees. And then bringing your feet down to the mat, preparing for bridge pose, making sure that my feet are a little bit out from underneath my knees. So if I kept them here and went up, that's not very supportive for my knees. So I want to make a little bit of space. Hands going to either side of my body, pushing down into the floor. I'm pushing down through my heels. And then when I'm feeling ready, I'm slowly raising my hips up off the mat, pushing them towards the ceiling. Squeezing my bum muscles, squeezing my knees towards each other, and then slowly lowering back down, vertebrae by vertebrae, until I come back down to the mat. Releasing for a moment. We're going to do that twice more at your own pace. As you finish up your last bridge pose, we're moving into a spinal twist. I'm going to shift my hips to the right-hand side of the mat, my feet as well, and then I'm going to allow my knees to roll to the left-hand side. Just looking for that gentle twist in my lower back, arms perhaps going out to either side or up and overhead. Perhaps a top hand rests on that top leg. It's okay if your knees don't touch down on the mat. Try to keep your shoulders in contact with the mat though. I'd rather your shoulders touch and your knees move less than have your knees go but your shoulder lift. Finding a spot that feels okay, and then coming back to your breath. Back up to the center, shifting our hips to the opposite side of the mat, letting our knees fall the opposite direction. If it feels like too much on our lower back, slide your feet down the mat. If you're looking for more, slide your knees up or extend your top leg long. Finding the variation of the pose that feels okay for you this morning. And then coming back to your breathing, always coming back to our breath. Last couple breaths in this pose. Knees coming back up to the center, adjusting your hips to the center. Bring the soles of your feet together. Allow your knees to drop out wide. Hand can rest on the belly, the hips, out to either side. Perhaps a hand on a heart, our heart a hand on the belly. And then coming back to our breath. Maybe taking a moment to think about our theme and about not being an expert. So as you hold this pose, take a moment to reflect on if you can set your ego aside and ask for help, or is that a problem for you? Do you feel the need to be an expert? And then take a moment to think of what could shift or what does shift when you do ask for help, when you set your ego aside, when you become a little more vulnerable and ask for help. Last couple breaths, inhaling in nice and deep, the deepest breaths you've taken all day, and then perhaps sighing out a couple exhales, really releasing any tension, any blockages, anything that doesn't serve you anymore. And taking a final moment to realize that asking for help, not being an expert, is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of immense strength. Use your hands, guide your knees up together and closed. Squeeze your knees back into your chest. Perhaps extend your feet up towards the ceiling for fake legs up the wall, bringing all that energy back down into your body. Or perhaps you prefer to take your knees wide, draw them in on either side of your body, and explore happy baby, kicking one foot towards the ceiling, then the other. Bringing your feet back down to the mat. If there's any poses I haven't invited you to do that you'd like to squeeze in, now's a great time to do so. Otherwise, when you're settled, you're going to stretch out long on your mat to enjoy Shavasana, our final pose of our practice, all about soaking in the good of your practice, letting your body realign, and just allowing you to enjoy some stillness on your mat. Typically done on your back with palms up or down. Sometimes I prefer taking my arms up and overhead, whatever version is feeling right for you this morning. And then settling in to relax and enjoy. Bring some awareness back to your body, small hand and foot movements, maybe a nice big stretch overhead. Checking in to see how you're feeling now compared to when you started your practice, and recognizing that you took the time to get on the mat, which can often be the hardest part of practicing yoga. Perhaps transitioning to a side of your choice to rest there for a moment. And then using a supportive hand to push into your mat to guide yourself up to sit. Thank you so much for joining me on the mat this morning. I hope you are feeling stretched out and fantastic and ready to enjoy your Sunday. Remember that it's okay to not be an expert, and it's okay to ask for help, that beautiful things can come out of both. If it feels okay, hands meeting in front of you and echoing Namaste. Thanks so much. Enjoy the day. I always welcome your questions, comments, concerns, feedback, and all of those lovely things. Enjoy the day.